Hello everybody, this is Unreal-GamingHD, and in today's video it's gonna be quite different. We're gonna take a look at the Project Cars 2. Just slight clarification about the race that we've been doing. I qualified P2, it was from the live stream, it was some fun group. I just got immediately dragged through for jumping the start, even though it wasn't something huge, but my car moved on the start and still moving before I set off. But yeah, I was leading after the turn 1, but I had to go into the pit, so all 19 cars field will drive around me as quick as possible, so I had to dig way through till the end of the race. In this race you will see even day and night transition, not any extreme conditions, but we will talk about all of those features of, let's say, even a live track 3.0 further in this video. Well, I shall start probably with the history of Project Cars, not as a game itself, but as I'm connected with the Project Cars. Well, this is the first game that got me into some kind of competitive esport, whatever you would call it, racing. I even started, when I started Project Cars, I had G27. After that I switched to T500RS, which I still doing after 2 years pretty much. And yeah, one of the first contacts were early access of Project Cars, but the full game contact I probably had on the first tournament on the day of the release. It was offline tournament and probably the first one in the world. It was happening in Czech Republic, in Prague. I didn't even get from the first group into the semi-final, whatever it was called at the time. But yeah, this is how it started. It was pretty much the start of my, let's say, SimRacing career, even though Project Cars, it's in the case of first Project Cars, I wouldn't call it SimRacing, but it was a game that was almost ready for competing on some, let's say, different level or whatever you would call it. So surely I have a relationship to to its predecessor. But yeah, let's probably start with things I like about Project Cars 2 and why I like them. Well, let's start with, for example, physics. I put it into things that I like about Project Cars 2, but don't get me wrong, it's good. It's a lot better than it was in the case of original Project Cars, but it's still far from really detailed physics that would be at least close to the reality. Don't get me wrong, this is not sim racing experience, but this is huge improvement from the original Project Cars, and it's huge fun to drive in this game pretty much. This game can't be considered as a sim racing, and if you're gonna be comparing it with something like even Assetto Corsa or let's say iRacing, which I'm a huge driver of iRacing or huge fan of that game and the way it works and the ranking system and everything, you can't compare it. It's like comparing apples and pears or whatever it's supposed to be called in English. You can't do that. This is not the whole different, but it's still different type of experience. However, with all this, it's quite tightly connected force feedback of the game, and I had chance to try the force feedback on 2 different wheels, both by Thrustmaster. The first one was on the offline tournament, that was TS Racer Base, so the second newest product from Thrustmaster, and at home at T500RS. It feels quite decent on both, but I still have some complaints, especially how it's drawing up when you're locking up the tires. I'm used to from iRacing that when you're looking up the tires you can feel it in your wheel. Here you can only hear the sound, and the sound that sounds quite weird in my opinion, but whatever, it's a topic for another time. So yeah, this is my main complaint about the force feedback. When you feel you're losing the car, you're pretty much able to catch it. It tells you that, even though in my opinion iRacing has more detailed and better handled force feedback. But the reason why I'm comparing with iRacing is that force feedback doesn't necessarily have to be that different, even though this is something I call simcade, so something between arcade and sim. But other than that, I don't have any major complaints about force feedback as it is. Another thing I would like to discuss about things I like about Project Cars 2 is the graphics. There are not major complaints that something would look terrible or even awesome. The game as it is supposed to look nice. It has to, because this is the main weapon how to convince people to buy this game on that visual side of things. As I said, it's not the SimRacing experience, it's more of the Simcade experience, but really great Simcade experience, sorry about that. So, about the graphics, it looks nice. Just wanna say that in the video you will not see the full or ultra graphics. This is, I would even say, some kind of like medium details, let's say, because I'm just trying to run it the way it doesn't affect my racing abilities, so I don't drop that below 60 FPS. Even though I have the NVIDIA 1070, I think you're gonna need a little bit more power than that. I'm even running in the single screen just to make sure I'm not gonna get any bad behavior, let's say. And yeah, graphics is nice, especially some sunrise or all those effects of day and night transition are beautifully done. I have some complaints, for example, about the wet weather when you're close to the car, like we can see, for example, here on the screen. And when you have the yellow lights and you get the spray, it looks quite weird, but I don't know, maybe it looks the way it looks in real. I can't really say. Another part probably is, in my opinion, the biggest reason to buy this game, in case you're not a hardcore sim racer, is, even though if you're a hardcore sim racer, because sim racing doesn't always get enjoyable as you would probably wish. So another aspect I want to talk about is fun aspect. In terms of fun aspect, this gets 9 out of 10. The reason why, because the mix as it is, and if you're able to oversee some mistakes, some bugs and some glitches, this game has really great fun aspect. And I think that what everybody wants from this game, they want it to look pretty, they want it to drive reasonably, and they want to have fun. And this game is perfect mix, and it just works. It works as the package is. Now let's proceed to the things I don't really like that much about Project Cars 2. I would probably start with extreme weather, or all of those extreme conditions, from storm to thunderstorm or whatever it's called, or even snow. It, you know, from probably point of view of a sim racer like I am, you wouldn't be able to drive in those conditions in real life. But I think I have to consider the fact that this is not a sim racing game, and all of those conditions simply belongs to that fun aspect that I'm rating 9 out of 10. I had several wet races, even storm races, or with heavy fog, so you couldn't see pretty much anywhere, and it was Spa-Francorchamps, so doing the Eau Rouge with pretty much no visibility. It was quite challenging, but yeah. So yeah, I put it on the side that I don't really like that much, because I think they are not close to the reality, but the fun aspect is there, so why not? So this is just from my point of view, but everybody is running those extreme conditions on online lobbies, so I think that people are quite happy about that. Another thing I can't really say I like is that fact that I can't feel the tire, lock tire, and this is something I already mentioned in force feedback topic, but I just want to put it and point out once again, I don't really like the way this game handles locking up the tires. Since for example, trail or tail braking is the technique that makes you a lot faster, it's vast to have that force feedback when you're locking up the tires and when you're close to losing your car. But whatever it is as it is, sadly even the sound that indicates locking up the tires, it's not the way it's supposed to be, and it's quite hard to orientate yourself when you're locking up the tire, but still you can use ABS. That's pretty much up to you. And the third thing I don't really like about the Project Cars in general is the sound. I've seen and I've read a lot about the Project Cars, how it stands against the first Project Cars. A lot of people said that the first Project Cars, its physics and sounds were terrible. The tire model was totally off, and it was probably true, but I don't really think that from cars I've heard in real life, I've seen on television, I've tried in iRacing. These sounds of those cars are not really close, and I would say even not even close. I don't know, maybe you have different opinion. That's, you know, as we are here, everybody has pretty much different opinion about those things, but this is just my personal opinion. I don't really like the sounds of this game. I don't even like the sound in high revs. I think that car doesn't really tell you where you're supposed to shift. You have the lights, of course, you have the shift indicator, but imagine you don't have that. I wouldn't be able to shift probably based on the sound, because it doesn't really sound like you're supposed to shift. The engine seems to me have a little bit monotonic sound from 4K to 7K RPMs, and it's pretty much really important to know where you're supposed to shift, since it's unless you're unless you're doing automatic gearbox, which I think several people will do manual or sequential, let's say. So now we're getting into the last topic, and I think it's really important question which I have answer for, of course from my opinion point of view. Is it good for esport? Well, if you consider esport like really high competitive level of gaming, I think this is not quite ready for it. It has several problems in terms of connectivity, and even though they add endurance racing into this game, I don't really think this game as it is in this state can handle 12-hour race with swapping of drivers and all that without a single problem. I've done 24-hour race, I've done 12-hour race, I've done 6-hour race. I've never had a problem in iRacing. That game is completely ready for those type of events. This game, I don't feel like it is. I haven't tried. I just know that there sometimes is a problem with 5-lap race. So how do you want to do 300 lap race, for example? I think it's not quite possible, and we will see in the future. They can release one patch and it's gonna fix pretty much all the problems I have with it, and the aspect of fun will be 10 out of 10 for me. I don't really plan on playing this game anymore. Maybe now for fun, but now I have to focus and train on 10 hours of Road Atlanta, or it's called Petit Le Mans. So I just wanted to make this review because I got shared library with my friend, so I want to thank you, Martin, for this. I had quite fun. I enjoyed the offline tournament where I got into the final, and even though I've qualified second in the final, everything went wrong due to that game didn't handle the rolling start, and I got crashed because it just wasn't working for me, as it seems, because I tested here how it was supposed to work, and it was supposed to work like standing start. It was just by moving cars, but since it wasn't the manual, it wasn't supposed to work the way it did. Whatever. My final call on this game is, if you are not SimRacing freak, if you want to have fun with your friends, if you want to have some entry to the SimRacing world, take this. I got into the iRacing from Project Cars, the original Project Cars. So if you're gonna understand a little bit of car physics and all of that, you will probably get into some more competitive and esport ready game to race with. This was Unreal-GamingHD. I'm gonna leave you to the end of the race, and have fun. Thank you for the watching, and bye guys.
minutes to go. Best first sector time so far. 7 minutes to go. That's the best sector time of anyone so far. Great job. Keep it up. 4 minutes remaining. minutes remaining. Minute remaining.